We are born explorers. We just have this desire and drive to explore everything out there.
It's one small step for man, giant leap for mankind.
First, while traveling around the moon in orbit.
For centuries, the moon has captivated and stirred our curiosity. It has remained a source of mystery, wonder, and boundless speculation. But imagine if we were to share that everything you've learned about the moon's origins, composition, and its true purpose might be entirely mistaken. In recent years, multiple countries have launched missions to the moon, revealing remarkable insights about its characteristics and its past. Astronomers have come across unexpected findings that challenge our previous beliefs about the moon, including the discovery of a hidden civilization. In this episode, we'll delve into some of the most significant misconceptions about the moon. This is Reveal the Mystery. If you are curious to learn mysteries of the world, space, and beyond, consider subscribing. Bizarre moon music. A successful mission always requires a lot of preparation, especially when it's the first time humans are going to land on the moon. In May 1969, to prepare for Neil Armstrong and his team's historic moon landing, astronauts Eugene Cernan, Thomas Stafford, and John Young embarked on a mission to the moon. This mission served as a practice run to test the lunar module's descent and ascent procedures as well as the docking maneuvers under real conditions. During these tests, the astronauts encountered something they couldn't explain. They heard a strange, whistling sound, followed by a melodic rhythm. Interestingly, even though this incident was known within NASA, it was kept secret for nearly 50 years. What was this mysterious sound that the Apollo 10 crew experienced? Michael Collins, the often overlooked third member of Apollo 11, also claimed to have heard similar sounds. According to NASA's official explanation, the phenomenon can be attributed to radio interference. Radio waves can sometimes disrupt each other when they follow the same path, leading to these unusual sounds. NASA reported that the lunar music occurred when the crew separated the command capsule from the lunar module, and both spacecraft activated their communication systems. However, skeptics question why NASA waited for several decades before acknowledging the incident if it could be so easily explained as radio interference. Inexplicable light. We all know that the moon lights up our night sky with its beautiful glow. But did you know that there are some strange and interesting things happening on the moon's surface that have puzzled scientists for a long time? These puzzling things are called lunar transient phenomena. They are brief moments when the moon's brightness and color change in specific spots on its surface. People have noticed this happening for a while, even back in the 1950s when a Soviet astronomer named Nikolai Kozyrev recorded it. Despite using fancy telescopes and sending probes into space to study the moon, we still don't fully understand why these changes happen. So, scientists have come up with different ideas to explain it. One idea is that it might be caused by smaller space rocks hitting the moon, but the most popular idea is that it's related to leftover volcanic activity on the moon. Even though the moon has been cooling down for a long time, there might still be some hot areas below the surface where volcanic gases occasionally come out. This stirs up the stuff on the surface, making it temporarily look different. Now here's the really interesting, but also quite controversial part. Some people think that these changes in brightness and color might be a sign that there's something or someone on the moon, something beyond just space rocks or volcanoes. That's a big mystery that we're still trying to figure out. They are watching us. Neil Armstrong said these famous words on July 21, 1969, when he became the first person to walk on the moon. It's a big deal in history books, but there are still some interesting mysteries about it. These mysteries aren't about whether the moon landing happened or not, but they're about something else Neil Armstrong said during the mission. When they were on the moon, there was a 2-minute interruption in their communication with Earth. This was officially because of technical problems, but some people have talked about a rumor that NASA did it on purpose. During that short break, Neil Armstrong reportedly told his bosses on Earth something strange. He said he saw really big objects on the other side of the moon's crater, like other spacecraft watching them. It's important to know that Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin weren't the only ones who went to the moon. In total, 12 people went there, including Alan Bean. He went just a few months after the first moon landing on November 19, 1969. He spent almost 8 hours outside the spacecraft, setting up things for experiments. But later, in an interview, Bean talked about seeing something on the moon that stuck with him. A shiny thing that looked like polished shoe leather. Hidden civilization. Let's embark on an intriguing thought experiment. Imagine for a moment that the unusual things observed by Armstrong, like the shimmering object and moon music, are not natural, but made by some kind of intelligent beings. If that were true, why haven't we seen any signs of this lunar civilization before? Shouldn't there be clear evidence that goes beyond what official space agencies have shared? Could they be hiding underground or somewhere else? It's quite surprising, but there are people who genuinely believe that the moon is not just a barren rock. They think it has many caves made of lava, which could be very important for future space missions. But some go even further and suggest that the entire moon is empty inside. They don't just rely on their imagination, they point to some unusual findings from the Apollo missions. Between 1969 and 1972, astronauts placed devices on the moon's surface to measure vibrations and impacts. They even intentionally caused moonquakes and crashed spacecraft into it to learn more. For example, the Apollo 12 crew deliberately smashed their lunar module into the moon's surface after they were done with it. This collision had a force like an explosion with a ton of TNT, yet the shaking continued for a surprisingly long time, an hour. A similar event happened in a later Apollo mission, where an even bigger explosion, equivalent to 11.5 tons of TNT, created a shockwave that lasted a whopping 4 hours. This was very different from similar events on Earth. Some creative thinkers believe this suggests there might be huge empty spaces inside the moon. However, it's important to remember that the prolonged shaking could have other explanations. Unlike Earth, the moon lacks water, which usually absorbs and softens vibrations. The moon, being dry, cold, and stiff like a rock, allows vibrations to keep bouncing around for a long time. Soviet scientists Michael Vassin and Alexander Shcherbakov had a different idea right from the start. They proposed that the moon's material makeup doesn't match that of a natural celestial body. Instead, they suggested that the moon was an artificially created space station, similar to the Death Star in Star Wars. Their argument was based on the shape of moon craters, which seemed too flat and sometimes curved outward, suggesting the presence of an artificial protective layer beneath the moon's rocky surface.